A legend falls. A man and dog cling. The cops just stood there, one of them still holding the taser he just fired. People on the street screamed, "He's a veteran! A Marine!" He used these hands to save lives. But no one stopped to listen. 5 minutes later, the rumble of a Humvee echoed down the block. An actual convoy of armored vehicles rolled into the neighborhood. Not police, not media, but the ones who once called him by one word only, brother. They didn't come to explain. They came for justice. This wasn't just an incident. This is one of those real veteran stories, the kind you won't see on TV. And if you're watching this video, welcome to Justice for Veterans. The only question now is, why would an old man mistaken for a homeless guy bring the entire military back into action? Introducing Hank Gunny Callahan. They called him Hank Callahan, but to his brothers in arms, he was Gunny. Gunnery Sergeant, United States Marine Corps. Recon Unit. Echo 3-2, Fallujah, 2004. He ran through enemy fire, dragged a wounded teammate out of a burning trench. No helmet, no body armor, just an M16 and a heart that didn't know fear. 3 combat wounds, 2 medals, 1 letter of gratitude from the president. But that was a long time ago. Today, he lives in an old camper parked by the roadside, hanging from the cracked windshield, a faded sign that reads, "I fought for this country." No wife, no kids, no friends left, just one companion who's never left his side. A black-coated dog with deep brown eyes, always curled by the door. Ranger. And to Gunny, Ranger wasn't just a dog, he was family. Ranger, the soul-saving dog. Ranger wasn't a pet, he was a soldier, a trained service dog, specialized for veterans with PTSD. When Gunny had night terrors, Ranger would nudge his hand with his nose. When Gunny's breathing started to spiral, Ranger pressed both front paws on his chest. He never barked unless it was urgent. He never strayed more than 10 feet from Gunny. Ranger wore a reflective vest, an ID tag, a medical chip, all legal, all by the book. But no one ever really looked into his eyes that had seen explosions. Eyes that had stayed beside 7 veterans who nearly ended their lives. Eyes that did what no doctor ever could, save them. With silence and unwavering loyalty. To Gunny, Ranger wasn't just a friend. He was the reason he was still alive. Heaved the gate and silent. That morning, Gunny wore his old uniform, pinned to the chest only one thing, the Echo 3, 2 insignia. He walked Ranger slowly toward the gates of Camp Pendleton. He only wanted to enter to place a single white flower at the memorial of a fallen friend. But the gate stayed shut. A young officer stepped forward, still green, his cap spotless, nameplate bold, Blake. He glanced at Ranger, saw the dog give a soft bark. His hand went straight to the taser. Gunny raised his hands, his voice trembling but steady. "It's a service dog. With papers, you just need to..." "Step back," Blake shouted, not giving him the chance. Gunny didn't even get to reach into his pocket for the ID. Zap! The electric charge flew. A 70-year-old body convulsed, hitting the concrete hard. Ranger howled, threw himself over Gunny's chest. People along the sidewalk screamed. A phone went up. "I got it! I recorded everything!" But what no one saw was that Gunny still gripped his phone. One button had been pressed, one signal had been sent, and in 5 minutes, the world would change. The taser and the coded signal. Gunny hit the ground. His face struck the edge of the curb. His left hand twitched. His right hand still held tightly onto Ranger. A woman screamed, "He's an old man. You can't do that." Officer Blake, chest heaving, eyes panicked. "The dog barked. I thought it was going to attack." But Ranger didn't move an inch from Gunny. He pressed his snout to Gunny's chest, whimpering softly. And then, while everyone thought Gunny was unconscious, his thumb gently slid across the phone screen. An old app lit up, black and white interface. No logo, just a single button. Recon Alpha Code 7. Gunny tapped it. A low mechanical voice emerged from the speaker. Confirmed. Echo 3, 2. Activation received. And just like that, the situation slipped out of the police's hands. Elsewhere, a large screen lit up with a city map. A blinking red dot marked a precise location. A man in uniform stood up. He spoke only once. Call Trent. Mobilize special response. Immediately. JID Code 7. When there are no cops left, we still have each other. In Gunny's hand, the phone vibrated softly. One button glowed on screen. Recon Alpha. Code 7. He tapped it, then blacked out. Somewhere else, a room lit only by red lights, and the American flag draped across the wall. A military phone rang. An older man with silver hair picked it up. He listened, then simply said, "It's Gunny." He pressed a button. A massive screen displayed coordinates blinking red. An alert flashed. Code 7. Honorary unit member in distress. Federal intervention authorized. The man nodded. Activate the response unit. Alert Trent. No sirens, no flashing lights. But 4 minutes later, a convoy of armored vehicles rolled out from an old military warehouse marked Unit Echo Ret, Recon Living Shield. And this time, they weren't coming for a drill. They came for a fallen brother who had yet to receive an apology. The roar of honor. At the scene, Gunny lay unconscious. Ranger rested his head on Gunny's chest, refusing to move. Officer Blake stood nearby, breathing hard, hand resting near his holster. Then, a strange sound rolled in. Not police sirens, but a deep metallic, growl-heavy, pressurized, unmistakably military. An elderly woman looked up. That's no civilian vehicle." And she was right. At the end of the block, a sand-colored Humvee turned the corner. Behind it, an MRAP, and then a LAV 25. No license plates, no sirens. Just a single marking, USMC, Ret. The crowd stepped back. Phones lifted into the air. Live streams exploded. A headline flashed across the screen. Veteran shot. Military responds in under 5 minutes. The formation halted with perfect precision. A Humvee door swung open. A man stepped out. Combat boots dusted from the road. Dark service uniform. Eyes sharp like a bayonet. A voice on the live stream whispered, "Oh my God, that's Colonel Elijah Trent." And without asking a single question, he gave a single order. Lock down the scene. Call medical. And find the officer who thought he could fire on a symbol. You just fired at my country's honor. Colonel Elijah Trent moved toward the scene. His steps were steady and slow, but his gaze froze the entire street. Officer Blake stepped in his path, hand still near his sidearm. "This area is under police jurisdiction. I must ask you not to interfere." Trent didn't stop walking. He pointed to the nameplate on Blake's chest. "Blake?" "Yes, sir." Trent's voice turned cold. "Blake, you just tased a United States Marine who fought in Fallujah, and his service dog who saved dozens of veterans from taking their own lives. You didn't just fire at a man. You fired at the honor of my country." Blake froze. His face went pale. Trent turned to the team behind him. "Disarm him. Suspend on sight. File the incident immediately." 2 veterans stepped forward, removed Blake's weapon, took his badge. Blake trembled. I thought he was dangerous." Trent didn't turn his head. "Because of what you thought. A hero now lies unconscious, and a service dog shakes beside his body." Trent knelt, placed a hand on Gunny's forehead, then turned to the crowd. "Who recorded the original video? I need uncut evidence." A young woman stepped forward, holding out her phone. "I filmed everything. No edits." Trent nodded. "Good. Then we're going to show America who this man really is." Danger never left, and the truth begins to emerge. Gunny lay motionless on the stretcher, his face streaked with dried blood, but his left eye twitched slightly. Ranger pressed tightly against his chest. Ears drooped. Brown eyes wide, unblinking. A combat medic placed a gentle hand on the dog's shoulder. It's okay, Ranger. He's still here. Vitals were checked. Low blood pressure. Slowed heartbeat, but there was still a pulse. Trent nodded. He's alive. He turned to the medic. Cut all external feeds. Switch to internal network. Sir, we ran a quick facial ID scan, Trent replied without looking. I know who he is, but for the rest of America, we need proof no one can deny. A tablet was handed over. On screen, name, Hank Callahan, rank, Gunnery Sergeant Unit, Marine Recon, Echo 3, 2 operations, Iraq, Afghanistan, Panama. A faded photo appeared, a younger gunny caked in dust carrying a bleeding soldier on his shoulder. A tiny puppy ranger stood beside him, looking into the camera. Trent studied the image and whispered, he's not just a veteran, he's a legend. The forgotten legend. On the tablet screen, his records scrolled line by line, mission by mission. Operation Anaconda, rescue of artillery team under siege in Kunduz. Night insertion, team leader no air support. A black and white photo popped up. Gunny, sitting in the middle of a firefight. One arm wrapped in gauze, the other shielding a trembling young ranger beneath a flak jacket. The medic beside him murmured, we studied him in special tactics class. Never thought he was still alive. Trent nodded. Gunny Callahan never surrendered. He was there when everyone thought no one would make it out. Then the screen displayed something that made the entire team go quiet. A video. Grainy but clear enough. Gunny, over a decade younger, carrying a bleeding comrade, sprinting out of a trench just bombed. Rangerfully grown, now rushed ahead, shielding the path. A rocket landed just feet behind them. They survived like it was a miracle. Trent whispered to himself, those 2 souls, they belonged in history books, and today they were dropped on the pavement because of a bark. He clenched his fist. Never again. Not one more time. Yinger? Not a dog, but a witness. The young medic gently stroked Ranger's fur. His hand brushed against the dog's faded collar tag. A small inscription, worn down by time. Certified PTSD service dog, Valor class. Trent looked at him and asked softly, do you know who Ranger is? The soldier shook his head. Trent nodded, opened the tablet. A profile appeared not of a person, but of Ranger himself. Mission, PTSD support for repatriated soldiers. Number of veterans assisted, 23. Emotional recovery rate, post-contact, 91%. Award, National Honor Service Dog, Wounded Warrior Regiment. A short clip played. Ranger stood in the middle of a grand hall, a tiny medal on his tactical vest. Hundreds of veterans rose to their feet, applauding. An older man with a silver beard spoke in the video. Not doctors, not pills. It was him who brought me back to my family. Back at the scene, Ranger still sat beside Gunny's stretcher, unmoving. He looked up at each person gathered as if to ask, why did it take this long for you to remember us? Trent's jaw tightened. He gave the order. Contact the media. We're done letting them call Gunny a homeless old man, and Ranger will no longer be invisible. When a nation knows his name, 12 hours after the incident. The uncut video from the young woman's phone aired on national news. Headline, Police Used Taser on Legendary Veteran. What the Marines Did Next. The hashtag, Justice for Gunny hit, one on Twitter within 3 hours. Hundreds of thousands of shares. One comment stood out. If a hero who once saved American soldiers can be treated like this, who is safe anymore? An emergency press conference was held. A Department of Defense spokesman stepped up to the podium, his voice clear, every word deliberate. Gunnery Sergeant Hank Callahan is among the finest soldiers ever to serve this nation. What happened to him is unacceptable. We apologize and we will act. At the same time, the city's mayor appeared at the military hospital. He approached Gunny, now conscious, but weakened, bowed low. Sir, on behalf of the entire city, I offer you our apology. We forgot, but not anymore. And beside that hospital bed, Ranger still sat silently, lifting his head slightly. as if standing guard for an entire generation that had been forgotten. I didn't look. I just reacted. A quiet room. No TV cameras. No stage. Just a young man sitting across from a printed photo. Gunny unconscious. Ranger pressed tight against his chest. Officer Darren Blake. Plain white shirt. No badge. Eyes red. Voice shaky. That day, I saw a scruffy man with a barking dog. He paused. Took a deep breath. I didn't look closely. I didn't see the service tag on the dog's collar. Didn't see the eyes of that animal. Eyes that had known loss. Eyes that had pleaded. He lowered his head, holding the scratched badge removed from him that day. I didn't do the right thing. I was trained to react, but never taught to understand. He looked up, straight ahead. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking to learn. And if Gunny can still hear me, I swear I will never draw my weapon again, without drawing out my heart first. Blake, in plain clothes, walking beside a PTSD support dog from a training center. He enters his first class for officers topic, working with souls who've walked through war, Yind raising the banner of honor. 1 month later, Washington, D.C., a special ceremony held in the main hall of the Marine Corps Museum, American flags waving, over 200 veterans in attendance. Front row, Gunny Callahan, seated in a wheelchair, gripping Ranger's leash. The announcer called out, "We proudly present the Citizen Honor Medal to Gunnery Sergeant Hank Callahan, and the Community Valor Symbol to his service dog Ranger." The entire hall stood. Applause thundered. A young Marine stepped forward and placed a miniature vest on Ranger, embroidered with the words, "A dog who saved more lives than bullets ever could." Tears welled in Gunny's eyes. He whispered not to the press, but to Ranger, "They thought we were forgotten. But you see now, we're still here." And they remembered. The camera slowly panned across the crowd. Veterans, civilians, children all on their feet. A lowered flag behind them, then rising, strong and high. The final words echoed from the speaker. "Honor never retires, and those who carried it shall never be forgotten. Just remember the dead. See the living." At the close of the ceremony, Gunny sat beside Ranger, eyes gazing out across the grass behind the museum. On the stone wall, hundreds of fallen soldiers' names were etched in deep, but he whispered, "There are so many who aren't named here, because they didn't die on the battlefield. They died quietly, in everyday life." Ranger looked up, as if he understood. The music softened. A voiceover came slow and steady. "Veterans don't need pity, they need recognition. They don't ask for statues, just an unbiased glance, each day, in everyday life. If you ever pass by an old man with distant eyes, someone clutching a dog as they sleep, or a person wearing a worn-out coat, don't judge too quickly, because maybe they were once the one willing to die, so you could live." Justice for veterans doesn't tell stories to make you cry. We tell them to wake your heart. If you're still listening, leave just 2 words. I remember, because sometimes just one person remembering is enough to make sure they never disappear.